All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program, Johnny Cuba. European roots with that Caribbean soul. Pick up a refreshing German lager in a can. Your local Sedanos, Presidente, Winn-Dixie. That's how you'll enjoy the Stanley Cup Finals this week, maybe even the NBA Finals tonight. Find the nearest Johnny Cuba to you. Go to johnnycuba.us. You could use the Johnny Locator. Make sure you always drink responsibly. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Very hard to stay tranquilo with everything that's going on around the Florida Panthers right now. Our pal is Billy Lindsay, Panthers radio analyst. You see him, of course, also on NHL Network. Billy, always great to catch up with you. And for the second year in a row, we get to catch up with the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm not going to say it feels, normal because it's crazy to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. But it's like, you got a legitimate great team now every year. It's amazing how far they've come.
It is amazing, and we've been able to build the trust back with the fan base. 4 straight years in the playoffs, President's Trophy, back-to-back Stanley Cups. We heard for so long, oh, next year's going to be the year. Oh, yeah, next year. When was that going to happen? But credit to Mr. Viola, ownership group, all the way down to the general manager, training staff, office staff. It's a one big family, and it takes everyone. The product that you see on the ice, Paul Maurice and the players deserve a lot of the credit. They're putting in the hard work, but it doesn't start if you don't kind of have that synergy throughout the whole organization. Kind of goes back to when with Mr. Huizenga, in the early years, you have to have that, and they've been able to build it up. Trust. We got 20,000 in there, and it's rocking, Zaz. It's one of the loud. I've been Madison, wherever you want to go. It's one of the loudest rinks in the league.
Describe the building to me when Game 6, not just when the time is running out, but when they score the second goal, Tarasenko, to go up 2-0. Describe the building to me.
Just explodes. You're just waiting for it, and all of a sudden you get that 2-goal lead, and you can start to taste it, the fans. And once Tarasenko scored, it just never shut up. There's some nervous energy in a building when it's 1-0 or it's 0-0, it's close, and fans they can yell a little bit, but they're watching the game, they're intent on it. When it got up 2-0, it was time to start screaming, and they never let off the hook until that final bell run. Panarin put a little scare in late with that goal, but they exploded. It was just bedlam for about 20-25 minutes there at Amerant Bank Arena.
I think it's such a great example, the series with the Rangers, as to how difficult it is to win the Stanley Cup. And what I mean by that is we kicked the crap out of them, Billy, and 5 out of 6 games were 1-goal games. That's crazy.
One bad goal by Bob Bobrovsky, one post that goes different. Anything can change the complexion of a series when it's that close. Just go back to what happened with the Panthers in the first round against Boston last year. Marchand has a breakaway with 5 seconds left on the clock and make the save. And then we in Game 6 of that series, Boston was up after 2 periods. They hadn't blown a third period lead all season long. Not only did the Panthers get a lead, but Boston got the lead back. It was a wild 6-5 win. You score with 1.5 minutes on the clock in Game 7 to force overtime. The margin of errors becomes so slim at this time of the year. Microcosm, they just shrink and shrink round by round. You got to put your body on the line. It's such a battle of attrition that you have to go through. But you're exactly right on the point. It's just so small. Any little mistake can change the complexion of a series.
Is the fact that the Panthers are so good in the third period. Like we get to, we're going into the third period of Game 6 and they're up 1-0. It's like, all right, we dominate the third period. Can we just play them even? We're up a goal. How much is that just the conditioning that this Panther team has that they're so great in the third period?
So the template was set in the offseason at training camp, and Paul Maurice brought these guys in after going to that Stanley Cup final and said, I'm gonna push you so hard in this training camp. You guys better be ready for it. And it was one of the hardest training camps that they've ever lived through. Not only did they go through it, they embraced it. They loved it. They went above and beyond. And That's where it got started. This is not going to be easy, and we're going to have to play this defensive structure. So you go through the course of the 82 games. When you're on, that system works, but you play so hard, and that's where they were able to ride the highs pretty good. But 82 games, you're not going to have your legs or do it all. There's going to be some bumps and dips in the road. But once you get to this time of the year and you're dialed in and you've been working that hard all season long, now you can start to really dial it up. Everyone's on the same rest. You got the same schedule, the same travel. Now, can you keep up with this Panther team because they've pushed it so hard for so long? Can you go at them toe to toe for 60 minutes? I saw Tampa a little bit, Boston somewhat, Rangers maybe 20 minutes. But if this Panther team is humming and they're rocking and rolling, good luck staying with them for 60 minutes. They just kind of just wear you in the ground and erode you. It's the staple of this team. You talked about the goal differential. It's 23-10 in the third period, or 24-10, something outrageous like that. They just pummel you into submission by the end of it.
What do you think's been the biggest difference? Maybe they're the same, or what do you think's been the biggest difference between the run last year against this point and the run this year? Because what I see, last year, once he, was inserted into goal from down 3-1 against Boston and then on to the Stanley Cup Final, Bobrovsky was essentially standing on his head. He was amazing. It was like Van Beesbrook in '96. But this year, he hasn't had to do that. He's made great saves, to be sure, but I don't think anyone could say Bobrovsky has carried this team to this point. And I think that just shows how much better this team is.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's just not his front and center for Bobrovsky this year. He's made the timely saves. It's been solid goaltending, and it gives your team confidence. But it was more in your face last year from Bobrovsky. It just kind of stood out. If he was playing well, the Panthers had a chance. You go back to the offseason additions. Josh Mahura played 82 games last year, all the playoff games. He can't get in the lineup. You get Mikkola, you get Oliver Ekman-Larsson, you get Kulikov to help with the injuries at the start of the year. These are all really good players. They come into the dressing room. They fit a role. You get Tarasenko at the trade deadline. You get Opozo. Nick Cousins was on the second line last year. Now you have Tarasenko. You got a top nine. You got two guys sitting out on your fourth line every night that could be in the lineup. It's deeper. This team is deeper than last year. And last year from the All-Star break on, you were playing catch-up. You were just grinding, playing playoff hockey to get into the playoffs, right, to game 81, 82. That takes a toll on you. This year, it was more of a crescendo. Get off to that good start, build, the systems are in place, the team becomes self-sustaining, and just ramp it up slowly, slowly, slowly. You're going to be a playoff team. If you had a hangnail in game number 79, you're not playing. You're going to be resting. So you had the chance to make sure everyone was rested, healthy, and that's the biggest difference from last year. There was a main focal point that you could get from the All-Star break on about preparing for the playoffs instead of chasing for the playoffs, and they were preparing for this moment all year long. And when it arrived, they've been able to deliver one more chance at it.
When Paul Maurice talks about what a special group it is in the room, how together they are, how much they enjoy each other, like how much of that is real? Because it's an easy thing to say when your team is really good. Like, how different is, the way Paul Maurice makes it sound, this team compared to other teams?
It's totally different. If you're going to get to this point and you're going to get to a Stanley Cup, you have to have a brotherhood in that room. And it starts with your leadership with the Barkov and the Tkachuks. And I can compare it back to the Skrudland and the Mellenbys, players that work so hard, so damn hard, and you're sitting next to them, and your leadership is working so hard. Well, if you're a third or fourth line guy on the Panthers, if you want to get in the lineup, you better not come back to that bench and have a shift where you just kind of float around out there. You better be playing with your hair on fire, because you look at the way that your captain's playing. Look how it does. And so when you get back into the room, and it does become like a pack of wolves, all for one, one for all. And you're so deathly afraid when you become a great team of letting your teammate down. Back when I was playing, I was so afraid. If I played bad, I wasn't going home feeling sorry for myself. I was feeling, oh my gosh, I let Brian Scrudelin down. I let, Scott Mellenby down. Same thing with this team, Barkov, Tkachuk. And Scrudelin described it to me perfectly early on in my career. He says, I don't care what you do on the ice, but you got to be able to give it your all because I have a family to feed too. I depend on you. And I'm going to give everything that I have in my soul and being for you and your family. I need you to do the same. And that is when good teams become great. Yes, the product on the ice, the dressing room is self-sustaining. Paul Maurice does not have to go in there and say words. That's when you know that the locker room and the bond is close. And those are some of the things that it takes to get to this point and to have a chance to win a Stanley Cup.
Billy, what do you make of the touching or the not touching the Prince of Wales trophy? And how did you guys handle it in 96?
I don't know if I can't even remember back then. Imagine if that trophy had that much power, we'd all be millionaires. We could just all bet and say, well, that team, I mean, it's all like all the superstitions in the world. I always wonder that you hear announcers curse, oh, he's made 33 in a row before he kicks the field goal and then he shoves it wide right. If we had that much power as announcers or people or superstitions, we would run to the betting tables right away and say, okay, I'm going to put $20,000 right now on this kick. It's going to go wide right. It's superstitions. They're a funny thing. Whatever. Put your hands on it. There's no bearing. There's been teams that have touched it and won, that haven't touched it and lost. Do the opposite of what you did last year. You touched it this year. Leave it alone.
Gretzky was adamant on the NHL and TNT broadcast after the game because they were talking about, hey, they didn't touch it this year. You're not supposed to touch it. Gretzky was adamant that you should touch it. Why not? It's a great trophy. I touched it every time. Won 5 Stanley Cups. Gretzky did not understand the idea of not touching it.
Yeah. What's if he touched it, it is a great trophy. It's the bearing, but I guess the point of not touching it this year and the celebration that you saw from the Panthers after winning the Eastern Conference this year, it wasn't hats and sticks flying everywhere and just going mobbing everyone. It was just kind of jumping over the bench, patting everyone on the back, going down to your goaltender, giving him a pat on the pads, a slow walk over to the trophy, gather the team around, and take a picture. Where last year it was, let's grab that trophy, go around with it, celebrate, and just kind of bedlam. It had more of a feeling. This is part of the job, but this is not the end goal. So from that point, that's where I liked it. It's like, okay, we got more business to take care of. And Matthew Tkachuk was the leader.
I lost your sound here. There you go. There you go. You're back.
Yep. Sorry.
Does the travel, Sunrise, Edmonton, especially if you get to where you got to travel to game 5 and then travel to game 6 and then travel to game 7. I mean, you guys are flying chartered planes. You got good food, spacious seats. Is it a big deal?
Not such a big deal. The only point of it is that I found it much easier going out to the West Coast because you just went to bed earlier and woke up earlier. When you have to travel west to east, like Edmonton is coming down here, they've got some time to adjust. But the problem I had when I went west to east is you can't force yourself to sleep. So if your normal bedtime back in Edmonton is 11 o'clock, that ends up being like 2 o'clock here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to go to bed at your normal time, which is 11, it ends up being like 9 o'clock or whatever. And that you force yourself, and all of a sudden you're up late, and you're waking up at 10:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden you got a morning skate in half an hour. Just disrupts your routine. That's only a small point. Both these teams have people that work with sleep doctors and everything else to get their clocks straight. So it'll play maybe a minor issue in it. And of the whole point of it, just twice is the max that we have to go to Edmonton maybe 3 times here. And where it might play a factor is if it got into game 7 and the 2 days back. That's where I'd see maybe the travel coming back 3 times to here maybe catches up to a team like Edmonton.
Last thing I got for you here, Billy. You know, you guys in 1996, you're always going to be the first. That's never going to be taken away.
Yep.
That's forever. One of my favorite things that's happening now is with these back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals appearances and hopefully a Stanley Cup championship, I don't have to refer to 1996 anymore
Thank you.
as this fairy tale, as this legend, as
Thank you.
This story that, hey, you guys won't believe what it was like back. I love that team so much, but I don't have to do it anymore because we're living it right now.
Yes, and the best part of doing these interviews, and I've done a ton of them, 96 hardly ever gets brought up. And it's good. We're in the golden era of Panthers hockey. We had our time. That's 20, whatever, 30 years. We had our time in the sun. It was awesome. No one's going to take it away from us. It's always going to be part of us. But you want a new legacy for this franchise. It's been too darn long and waiting. So this is it. This team deserves the support of the fan base. They deserve the recognition. 96 should be long in that rearview mirror. You shouldn't even be able to look in your rearview mirror and see it anymore. So that to me, I don't like bringing it up anymore. It's about these guys, what they did last year, what they're doing this year. If they win a Stanley Cup, they're going to go down in history as one of the greatest eras in Panther hockey, and they'll be remembered and cherished forever. And maybe you win a Stanley Cup 5-6 years down the road, and that team has a whole new complexion and identity to it. Look at Tampa Bay; they won a Stanley Cup back in the early 2000s, and then win back-to-back Stanley Cups. They've got so many great memories and history to draw off of, and no one's taken anything away from any of the teams that accomplished. So we brought it, we got it going down here, got it revved up, and finally someone has been able to grab the bull by the horns and say, this is it, this is our time. And there's so many Panther fans that are so young that has grasped on this is going to live on forever, especially if you get that cup. That famous saying, if you win that last game, if you win today, we walk together forever. There has never been a truer statement in sports. If you win that Stanley Cup, that is a family bond, not only the team, but the whole organization that will walk and live in infamy together forever.
Billy, excellent job. I'm so excited for this weekend, obviously. You'll be making the trips to Edmonton, doing the radio? You're going to be going?
Yep, we're rocking. Awesome. We're doing it.
Awesome. Very good. I'm so excited. My boys, we're all so excited. It's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to end the way we all want it to. Excellent job, Billy. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us here.
Thanks so much, Zaz. Appreciate it, buddy.